For this video I'm going to show how I make the loop for the friendship bracelet like this one with the stripes, and this is a larger loop. An alternate version is this with the smaller one. I quite like that one where the stripes are on the inside. Another one I've made is like that, which is even bigger, but that's a wider bracelet. For this one I'm doing one about this width. To get started I'm going to use my board, which I'm going to fasten the strands to while I'm working the knots. And for this one I'm doing traditional rainbow colours with black for contrast. So what I'll do is I'll take about 5 feet of each of these, which should be long enough to make a bracelet for an average size wrist. To start off with my colours, I measure on a ruler like this. So you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can use a measuring tape if you've got one or whatever. I just use this. And then you take one of your other colours, and instead of measuring on the tape you can just measure it against the one you've already got. So I would take another colour and then just put these together and measure it out like that, so I know they'll all be the same. You do want to take one of your colours though and add an extra foot to it for the bit of the loop that will show there. So that needs to lay a little bit longer, so I just add another foot for that one. Once you've cut all your strings, put them all together and then find the centre like that. And at that point I attach mine to the board. What I try to do is get a noticeable point where I can know that I'm going to start my knotting, so I'd do it like there. But it doesn't matter too much because you can alter it once you've put the last string on. I've kept one to the side, this is the one that's going to go over the top. And then if you want to, once you've put these on the board or whatever you're using, you can put them into the order that you want them to show up on the inside of the loop. This bit, so you can put them in that order if you want to, which I usually do, but you don't have to because you can move them afterwards. So I'm going to set that up and then show you how that looks and then get started. Right, now I've set them up and I've put them all in the order of the rainbow with a black in between, and then the last black will go at this side to create the loop bit over the top. I just think this makes this a bit easier for pulling the back over in the right order that I want them to be. And then there's one string left over that I'm going to use to make the loop. So now you take this part that you're going to do for your loop and get it more or less into the centre like you did with the other one, but you need to leave about a foot at the end because that's going to be for your loop. So it doesn't have to be precise, but you can measure it out if you want to. I'm just going to do it roughly. So then you find the centre or just slightly off centre, and then you have to have the longest bit at this side. If you are left-handed and you do it the other way around, just swap everything round. So now you take your loop and feed it underneath like that, and then you pull these two through the loop that you've created like that, and then just holding it a bit steady, tie it, and then put it to whatever was your central point, which for me was this line here. It's just my rough guide. So then take the top one, if you can find it, there we go, and then just put that bit to one side there because you won't need that. And then you count out your loops that you do here, and you're doing the hitch knots. So for the first one you go over the top in your backwards 4 and pull that through the centre and tighten that up, and then for your next one you go underneath in your backwards 4 and pull that through the centre like that, and then you're just repeating that all the way down, or for as long as you want it to be. Usually depends on how wide the bracelet is as to how many you do, but it's also preference as well. So I usually do about 15, and I count the first one as 2 because that was looped over on itself. So you just keep going all the way down until you've got it probably about there-ish, which is about 30 or 15 full hitch knots. So I'll come back when I've done that. So now I've done the knots there, and as you can see, as I pull this along, those are much more evened up, which is why you make this bit a bit longer. Right, so if you can see there, you've got a little ridge across the top. It's important that you do one knot over the top and one knot underneath, otherwise this will turn into a spiral, unless you want that, which is fine, but I like it just a flat edge there. So now you can take this off the board and just make sure you've got it roughly in the centre for when you fold it over like that. It'll have a slight curve to it when you're done. So just pull this, and then if you do find that they're not even at the end there, you can pull this part here and just move it gently across until it's in the position that you want it to be. Mine has stayed pretty much right, so that's fine. So then you take this part and attach it back to the board, so you've got both tail ends coming down like that. And once you've got that in position, you can put one to the side and then start working on whichever side you want to do. So I'm going to get that all sorted and come back to that. To do this bit, you take the colour that you want to show up first, which for me is going to be purple because I'm going to do the rainbow the other way around this time. And then you do your backward 4 over the top. Try and get it tight against there. And then the same thing but underneath, which is the same as what you did for the loop, which in mine is black. But the difference is with this one that you do one there and then you go to your next colour. So for me on this one it's going to be black. So you don't go over this one this time, like before you went over all of them. This time, each time you've done it, that one is going to be taken to the side and not worked again. This is what leaves the strands for you to make your bracelet, the main part of it. So over the top and then underneath and then to the side, and then take your next colour, which for me is blue, go over the top and then underneath, and then your next colour, so take that over the top and then underneath, and then move to the side and take your next colour, which for me is green, over the top and try to keep them as neat as possible, and underneath, and then move it out of the way and take your next colour. And then next colour. Over the top. Underneath. And out of the way, and then the next colour. Over the top. And then underneath and out of the way, and then take your next colour. Sorry about the board, it's got a mind of its own sometimes. over the top, and then underneath, and then put that out of the way, and take your next colour over the top, and then underneath, and then move it out of the way, then take your next colour, get over the top, and then underneath. And after that you'll be left with one strand that you haven't actually knotted onto anything, but you leave that for now because that will attach to the last one on this side. So now you can take that off, and then you're doing basically the same thing on the other side to make it match. So match your colours if that's the pattern that you're doing on this one. And then for this one you're going to go in a forward 4 and taking it over the top, trying to get that as tight to the end as you can, and then taking it underneath, and once again putting that to the side, then taking your next colour, and then going over the top, and then underneath, and then to the side. So I'm going to do the rest off camera because I think you get the idea, and then show you the last part. Once you've finished doing both sides, you will end up with something that looks like that. And then the next part you do to start the bracelet is clip the centre of it onto the board, keeping your colours free. You can pinch it in a bit if it makes it easier. And then you take the 2 threads that you didn't tie to anything in the centre and then tie them to each other. And you can do this whichever way around you want because it doesn't really make any difference, I don't think. Try and get them fairly tight without distorting the bracelet. And then tie 2 knots like that. So that's joined your bracelet, and then what you do is you take your first colour here and you work it over all these strands. So you're doing your forwards there. You take your next colour and it's just worked over each one until you get to the centre. Just keep going forward. Make sure you always pick up the right colour, because you can sometimes accidentally get the wrong one and then it pulls it out of shape a bit. Sorry about the abrupt cut off in the last part, it's just because the thing ran out of memory and I hadn't realised. So I'm just going to quickly show you this side. As you can see, I've done the purple all the way to the centre, so now you're just doing the same thing at the other side, but this time with backward knots. So you're taking your purple and you're working it over each strand until you get to the centre. So that's over the black and over the blue. Each time just 2 backward knots. They do tend to cling, these strings, so that's why I keep moving the board without meaning to. So again, backward knots. And then last one. And then you take the last one from the other side. And then you can do a forward or a backward for the centre. I always do forward, it's just habit. And then that's them attached for the beginning of the bracelet, like that. And I think that's a really nice effect on the loop, especially if you want something a bit bigger, because I sometimes put buttons on mine, so I need a bigger space, so I thought it was a really ideal solution to that. I'm going to show how I do a bracelet like this in another video, because this is getting a bit long now, and I'm also going to show how I do a different style using the same loop as well, so you can watch this if you want and then watch something else, or just do this and make something of your own. I like seeing anything that other people do. I love looking at pictures of bracelets. If anybody does anything based on this or gets ideas from this or anything, basically just send me links to photos. You can tag me on Instagram or Facebook, or even put in comments at the bottom of this. So have fun with it, and I hope you enjoyed watching it.